What if Hollywood's most carefully manufactured goddesses were hiding something studios considered almost as risky as scandal? Their real beliefs. Behind the diamonds, perfect smiles, and invented names were Jewish converts, devoted Catholics, Christian scientists, spiritualists, atheists, and women who quietly changed faith after heartbreak. Some stories were buried by publicity departments. Others were twisted into wild rumors. Today, we separate the documented truth from the Hollywood legend. Before the countdown begins, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. You will never look at classic Hollywood's polished image the same way again. Number 25. Ingrid Bergman. Long before Hollywood cast her as nuns, saints, and morally tested heroines, the Swedish star carried a quieter religious identity. She was Lutheran, and she once summed herself up with dry humor as tall, Swedish, and Lutheran. That background mattered because American audiences often assumed the woman from the Bells of St. Mary's shared the Roman Catholic faith of the nun she played. In reality, Bergman approached religious roles as an actress rather than as a public preacher. While preparing to portray Joan of Arc, she studied the saint's life intensely and impressed observers with her seriousness. Accounts from the period described her as reading the Bible and treating belief with respect, even though her own tradition was Protestant. The contrast became especially striking after her relationship with Roberto Rossellini caused public outrage. Many viewers who had confused her screen purity with her private life felt personally betrayed. Her Lutheran identity was never exactly secret, but Hollywood's saintly marketing made it almost invisible. Number 24. Grace Kelly. Behind the cool Hitchcock elegance stood a woman shaped by a strict Catholic home. Grace Kelly grew up in a prominent Irish-American family in Philadelphia, where religion, discipline, and reputation carried enormous weight. Yet the future princess did not live as a simple symbol of obedience. Biographers describe her as sincerely Catholic, while also possessing an independent conscience, especially in her romantic life. That tension helps explain why her public image remains so fascinating. On screen, she looked controlled, almost untouchable, but privately she resisted the idea that faith required her to surrender every personal choice. Her marriage to Prince Rainier of Monaco turned Catholic identity into part of an international royal spectacle. The ceremony, the palace, and the expectations of motherhood made her appear like a perfect religious princess. But the real story was more human. Kelly respected her faith, sometimes broke with its social rules, and carried both devotion and rebellion into royal life. Hollywood sold the halo. The woman underneath was far more complicated. Enjoying the hidden history? Subscribe now and join our growing classic Hollywood community. We uncover the private stories that studio publicity tried to smooth over. Number 23. Rosalind Russell. Few viewers watching the rapid-fire chaos of His Girl Friday would guess how central Catholic practice was to Rosalind Russell's private life. Famous for playing sharp professionals and powerful society women, she belonged to the Good Shepherd Parish in Beverly Hills and participated in the Catholic Motion Picture Guild. Her faith was no publicity trick. It had roots in her education and remained part of her adult routine. That contrast challenged Hollywood's simple labels. Russell could be politically active, professionally ambitious, wickedly funny, and still deeply religious without seeing those qualities as enemies. She was also married to producer Frederick Bresson for 35 years, a rare level of stability in studio-era Hollywood. Friends remembered her devotion without presenting her as humorless or rigid. That may be the most surprising detail. The actress who made authority figures look foolish on screen found comfort in an institution built on authority, ritual, and tradition. Her faith did not weaken her famous wit. It quietly anchored it. Number 22. Irene Dunne. Elegance was not merely a costume for Irene Dunne. Off-screen, she built a reputation for discipline, charity, and serious Catholic devotion. Raised in the faith, she attended Catholic schools and later became known as a daily communicant, meaning worship was woven into her ordinary routine rather than saved for public ceremonies. Her beliefs also connected her to Hollywood friends, including Loretta Young and Rosalind Russell. Dunne's religious life eventually received recognition when Pope Pius XII honored her and her husband with honors linked to the Holy Sepulchre. Yet she rarely turned her faith into loud self-promotion. That restraint matched her screen presence in films such as The Awful Truth, Love Affair, and I Remember Mama. She could be sophisticated without seeming cold and moral without appearing smug. In an industry built around exposure, Dunne guarded the deepest part of herself through consistency. The hidden surprise is not that she was Catholic. It is how thoroughly her belief shaped her life while never becoming a cheap tool for attention. Number 21. Loretta Young. Nothing reveals Hollywood's moral contradictions more sharply than Loretta Young's private Catholic life. Her glamorous image suggested calm virtue, and her daughter said faith guided her decisions. Yet Young also carried a painful secret involving Clark Gable and the birth of their daughter, Judy Lewis, who was publicly presented as adopted. The studio system protected the story for decades because an unmarried pregnancy could destroy a leading actress's career. Young remained devoted to Catholic teaching, attended Mass, and surrounded herself with priests and religious friends. That did not erase the conflict between doctrine, fear, ambition, and secrecy. Instead, it made her story more complicated. She appeared to believe deeply while also participating in a cover story designed to survive Hollywood judgment. This is why calling her a hypocrite is too easy. The system gave women brutal choices, then demanded spotless images. Her hidden religion was not hidden because she lacked faith. It was hidden inside the gap between the person she wanted to be and the persona Hollywood required. Number 20. Jane Russell. Publicity sold Jane Russell as dangerous temptation, but her home became a meeting place for prayer. Raised in a Bible-centered family, she later embraced evangelical Christianity openly and organized the Hollywood Christian Group, where industry figures gathered for Bible study. The contradiction delighted reporters. Howard Hughes had marketed her body in The Outlaw, while Russell spoke constantly about God, prayer, and moral responsibility. She refused to accept that a glamorous woman could not also be spiritually serious. Her faith also influenced her adoption work. After facing personal difficulty becoming a mother, she adopted children and helped create an organization that supported international adoption. Russell was never delicate about belief. She was blunt, conservative, and honest about personal failures, including alcohol problems. That rough honesty made her religious identity harder to package. She was not the spotless church lady Hollywood expected. She was a complicated believer who thought grace mattered precisely because people were imperfect. The studio sold a body. She insisted there was a soul inside it. Number 19. Lana Turner. Before the diamonds, marriages, and tabloid disasters, a young Lana Turner became fascinated by Catholic ritual. Baptized Protestant, she attended Mass with a Catholic family and converted while still a child. She even attended a convent school and imagined becoming a nun, a startling beginning for the woman later marketed as Hollywood's ultimate sweater girl. Fame pulled her into a life of luxury and relentless scandal, and her practice became uneven. Yet Catholic identity did not disappear. In later years, Turner described a religious awakening and returned more seriously to prayer. That change came after decades of personal turmoil, including broken marriages, illness, and the famous courtroom storm surrounding her daughter and Johnny Stompanato. The public preferred dramatic Lana, satin gowns, flashbulbs, and dangerous men. Her spiritual history complicated that image because it revealed a child attracted to mystery and order, then an adult searching for peace after excess. Her faith was not a clean transformation. It was a thread she dropped, recovered, and carried again. Number 18. Susan Hayward. For years, Susan Hayward trusted timing, instinct, and even astrology. Reports described her consulting astrologer Carol Reiter about decisions, including when to sign a contract. That makes her later Catholic conversion especially intriguing. After marrying Georgia businessman Eaton Chalkley, Hayward connected with his faith and embraced a quieter life far from the Hollywood machine. Following his death, she was baptized into the Catholic Church in Pittsburgh in 1966. Her conversion was not merely symbolic. She and Chalkley had donated land that helped establish a Catholic parish near their Georgia home, and she was eventually buried there. The fierce actress from I Want to Live was famous for playing women who fought the world with raw willpower. Privately, however, she moved from searching the stars for direction toward a formal religious tradition built on surrender, ritual, and community. Hollywood remembered the red hair, the temper, and the Oscar. The deeper story was a woman whose idea of guidance changed dramatically as her life moved away from fame and toward loss. Number 17. Doris Day. The Sunny image concealed a religious journey that was far less simple than her movies. Doris Day was raised Catholic, surrounded by church music, then became a Christian Scientist after marrying producer Martin Melcher. Christian Science emphasizes spiritual understanding and prayer, and it attracted several major Hollywood figures in the studio era. Day reportedly found comfort in its teachings, especially during years of personal and professional strain. After Melcher died in 1968, and she discovered severe financial problems, her relationship with the church changed. She moved away from formal involvement, although biographical accounts suggest she retained interest in parts of its spiritual approach. This shifting belief fits the private Day better than the untouched heroine of romantic comedies. Her life included accidents, abusive relationships, financial betrayal, and grief. The woman singing cheerful standards was not protected from darkness. Faith became one of the ways she tried to organize suffering, but it did not remain fixed. Her hidden religion was really a hidden evolution, shaped by marriage, disappointment, and survival. Number 16. Ginger Rogers. Underneath the feathers and effortless smiles was a lifelong religious commitment. Ginger Rogers was introduced to Christian Science by her mother, Layla, and sources describe the faith as a lasting source of comfort. In her autobiography, Rogers discussed experiences she interpreted as spiritual healing, making belief part of her explanation for endurance and success. That matters because her screen image emphasized physical achievement. She rehearsed punishing dance routines, performed through pain, and became famous for matching Fred Astaire step for step. It taught her to view mind, spirit, and physical experience through a distinctive religious lens. Rogers also avoided the heavy drinking and smoking associated with many Hollywood circles, although she was hardly sheltered from romance, divorce, or controversy. The faith did not turn her into a quiet recluse. She remained ambitious, outspoken, and intensely professional. Hollywood celebrated her feat, dresses, and timing, but one of the forces guiding her life was almost never visible on screen. The graceful surface rested on convictions she considered practical, protective, and deeply personal. Number 15. Joan Crawford. Few actresses worked harder to control every detail of their image than Joan Crawford. The eyebrows, shoulders, lighting, interviews, and carefully staged home photographs all served a public identity built through discipline. Behind that polished machinery, she became attracted to Christian Science, reportedly beginning serious practice during the 1940s and embracing it more strongly in later life. Crawford called the faith positive and protective. Those words sound revealing when placed beside her lifelong fear of humiliation and rejection. Born into hardship, she reinvented herself through willpower and expected the same toughness from everyone around her. Christian Science, with its emphasis on spiritual reality and disciplined thought, may have appealed to that intense need for mastery. Yet religion did not settle the arguments surrounding her final years. Her daughter Christina's accusations, Crawford's estrangement from 2 children, and questions about her medical choices remain part of the legend. The responsible truth is narrower. She did identify as a Christian Scientist, and she found emotional shelter in it. As illness and isolation deepened, the faith should not be used as an easy explanation for every conflict or illness. Crawford's life was too complicated for one label. The woman who feared losing control found comfort in a belief system promising that the material world did not hold the final power. Number 14. Jean Harlow. One of old Hollywood's most repeated religious stories is also one of its most distorted. Jean Harlow's mother followed Christian Science, and that fact became attached to the actress's shocking death at only 26. For decades, writers claimed her mother refused doctors or blocked treatment because of faith. Medical records and later research show a more complicated picture. Harlow was attended by physicians, taken to a hospital, and died from kidney failure at a time when effective treatment was extremely limited. The popular story survives because it offers a dramatic villain, a controlling mother, an unusual religion, and a beautiful star lost through fanaticism. Reality is less cinematic. That myth remains irresistible. Religious belief was present in the household, and confusion may have affected how symptoms were understood. But the claim that Harlow was simply denied all medical care is not supported by the available record. That distinction matters. The platinum blonde had already been turned into a fantasy while alive, and after death she became material for another fantasy, this time a cautionary tale. Her hidden religion is therefore not only about belief, it is about how easily Hollywood history uses religion to create a cleaner, crueler, and more memorable explanation than the evidence allows. Number 13. Ava Gardner. A Bible stood near the center of Ava Gardner's childhood home in rural North Carolina. Raised in her mother's Baptist faith, she attended services and grew up in a world where religion shaped family respectability. But her belief cracked early. Gardner later recalled asking a preacher to visit her dying father and feeling abandoned when he did not come. She repeated that painful memory throughout the rest of her life. As an adult, she publicly said she had no religion, and biographers often describe her as atheist or deeply unconcerned with organized faith. That rejection adds another layer to the myth of the barefoot beauty who refused to behave. Gardner did not simply escape a small town for Hollywood glamour. She also left behind a religious structure that had failed her during grief. Even so, the culture of her childhood never fully vanished. Its language, guilt, moral expectations, and emotional intensity followed her through marriages to Mickey Rooney, Artie Shaw, and Frank Sinatra. Her screen roles often presented her as a woman marked by fate, desire, and punishment. Privately, she resisted the idea that suffering proved a divine plan. Her hidden story was not conversion into faith, but conversion out of it. Number 12. Marlene Dietrich. Before she became the tuxedo-wearing symbol of sophisticated rebellion, Marlene Dietrich was raised in the German Lutheran tradition. The First World War changed that foundation. She later explained that hearing religious voices on opposing sides claim God supported their armies helped destroy her belief. The young girl watched loss spread across Europe, while preachers offered certainty, and certainty began to look dishonest. Dietrich carried that doubt for the many decades that followed, and made sharp remarks about God and the world. Yet her final rites created one last contradiction. Although she had abandoned faith and was commonly described as atheist, her funeral took place in a Catholic church in Paris, and included a requiem mass. That does not prove a secret deathbed conversion. Funerals often reflect family wishes, culture, and public ceremony as much as private conviction. Still, the image is powerful. The woman who rejected organized belief was carried out through sacred ritual. Dietrich's religion was hidden because it existed mostly as an absence, a wound left by war. Her disbelief was not fashionable rebellion invented for the cabaret persona. It grew from seeing nations use the same God to bless opposite guns, leaving her convinced that honest doubt was better than patriotic certainty. Number 11. Katharine Hepburn. Independence defined Katharine Hepburn so completely that even her lack of religion became part of her moral identity. Raised in a progressive family, she did not build her life around church authority. In later interviews, she openly called herself an atheist and said people should focus on kindness and helping others rather than claiming knowledge about an afterlife. The American Humanist Association honored her, recognizing that ethical seriousness does not require traditional belief. This was a bold position for a star whose career began when publicists expected actresses to appear respectable, feminine, and safely conventional. Hepburn refused nearly every part of that formula. She wore trousers, challenged directors, protected her private relationship with Spencer Tracy, and spoke about death without pretending certainty. Her worldview also helps explain the unusual toughness audiences sensed in her performances. She did not expect rescue from heaven or approval from society. Meaning had to be made without religious permission through action, loyalty, work, and courage. Calling atheism a hidden religion would be inaccurate. But it belongs in this story because Hollywood often hid disbelief as carefully as minority faith. Hepburn eventually spoke plainly, turning private skepticism into a public philosophy. Nobody knows everything, so behave decently while you are here. Number 10. Mae West. The woman famous for jokes about temptation also spent years thinking about spirits, meditation, psychic power, and life beyond the visible world. Mae West's interest in spiritualism appeared early. A 1928 profile noted her curiosity about the occult and seances, long before Hollywood fully shaped her into the unstoppable queen of the double meaning. Accounts describe meditation, psychics, and her belief that she possessed intuition. This defied her public character. Audiences saw a woman who seemed completely physical: jewels, curves, stage entrances, and fearless jokes. Privately, beyond the studio lights, she treated the unseen as another source of power. Spiritualism had been popular in America for decades, especially among people searching for contact with the dead, but West approached it with the same confidence she brought to performance. She did not present herself as a follower of one strict church. Her beliefs were personal and mixed. That makes them easy to dismiss as another publicity game, yet contemporary reporting shows the interest was real enough to follow her beyond a single headline. West's hidden faith was not about obedience. It was about control. Control over fear, age, desire, and perhaps even death. For a woman who wrote her own roles, spiritual life became another script she refused to let anyone else dictate. Number 9. Jane Mansfield. Photographs of Jane Mansfield with Church of Satan founder Anton LaVey created one of the most durable myths in celebrity history. Dressed for maximum shock, the pair looked like proof that Hollywood's pinkest blonde had embraced something dark. But Mansfield told reporters she was Catholic in her own interviews and rejected LaVey's church. She considered him fascinating and understood perfectly that their meetings generated publicity. Legend swallowed that distinction. After her fatal car crash, stories of curses, rituals, and supernatural punishment spread because they were more exciting than the ordinary machinery of celebrity promotion. Mansfield had explored religious identity before. She discussed conversion, attended Catholic services, and tried to reconcile faith with an image built around provocation. Her connection with LaVey appears to have been theatrical and publicity-driven rather than evidence of sincere Satanist belief. Even her daughter later rejected claims that she had truly joined the church. The hidden religion, then, was the less sensational one. Under the heart-shaped swimming pool, nightclub costumes, and scandal columns was a woman who identified as Catholic. Hollywood preferred the devilish photograph because it sold better than the complicated truth. Mansfield could enjoy shocking the public without surrendering the faith she claimed as her own. Number 8. Rita Hayworth. When Rita Hayworth married Prince Ali Khan, newspapers treated the romance as a collision between Hollywood, royalty, and religion. Because Khan was an Ismaili Muslim, many people assumed Hayworth converted to Islam or abandoned Christianity. The documented record says otherwise. She remained Catholic throughout marriage and stated that although she respected Islam, she had not converted. Religion later became part of the custody dispute over their daughter, Yasmin. Khan wanted the child raised within his faith, while Hayworth insisted on a Christian upbringing in the United States. The conflict was public, emotional, and shaped by the politics and prejudices of the early 1950s. It also exposed how little the public knew about the woman behind Gilda. Born Margarita Cancino, she had already changed her name, hairline, and appearance to fit Hollywood's preferred version of American Beauty. That transformation made it easy to imagine she would change religion just as completely. But faith proved more resistant than her studio image. Hayworth's Catholic identity survived a marriage that made her a princess and a publicity machine that constantly reinvented her. The hidden story is not a secret Islamic conversion. It is her refusal to make one, despite enormous pressure, money, and international attention. Number 7. Hedy Lamarr. Hedy Lamarr's religious background cannot be reduced to one neat label. Born Hedwig Kiesler in Vienna, she came from Jewish parents in a society where assimilation could offer limited protection from anti-Semitism. Her mother converted to Catholicism, and Lamarr was raised openly as a practicing Catholic child. Before marrying arms manufacturer Fritz Mondel, she also formally converted to Christianity, although sources differ over how much that ceremony changed a life already shaped by assimilation. The deeper truth is that Jewish ancestry remained dangerous in Europe regardless of baptism. Lamarr eventually escaped Mondel and left the continent as fascism expanded. In Hollywood, MGM transformed Hedwig Kiesler into Hedy Lamarr, promoting exotic beauty while saying little about the Jewish family history behind the face. That silence fit an industry where names, noses, accents, and backgrounds were routinely altered to reach broad audiences. Her invention of frequency-hopping communication to fight the Axis adds a remarkable layer. The woman marketed as beautiful but ornamental had fled a world where identity meant danger, then offered technical ideas against that world's armies. Calling her simply Catholic erases her origins. Calling her simply Jewish erases the assimilation and conversion. Her hidden religion was really a divided identity shaped by survival. Number 6. Shelley Winters. Before she was Shelley Winters, she was Shirley Shrift, the daughter of Jewish parents whose family roots reached into Eastern Europe. Her childhood included attendance at the Jamaica Jewish Center and exposure to Hebrew songs. Hollywood gave the public another package, a blonde supporting beauty, then a tough character actress who could dominate scenes through force and honesty. The name change was part of a durable industry habit. Jewish performers were often encouraged to adopt identities that sounded less ethnic, less urban, and more acceptable to imagined Middle American audiences. Winters never completely erased the background. Her role in The Diary of Anne Frank carried an obvious historical and emotional connection, and she later donated the award to the Anne Frank House. Yet her career also showed how thoroughly the studio system could separate a performer from her roots. Many viewers knew the loud, funny, fearless celebrity without knowing Shirley Shrift or her Jewish education. That hidden history matters because Winters spent decades playing women who refused to disappear. She survived the transition from glamour roles to character acting by making herself impossible to ignore. In a business that once softened her name, she eventually turned her voice, politics, and personality into the strongest parts of her identity. Number 5. Judy Holliday. The name Judy Holliday sounded bright, simple, and perfectly suited to comedy. It was also a quiet translation. Born Judith Tevim to a Russian Jewish family, she chose a stage surname connected to the Hebrew phrase Yamim Tovim, meaning holidays or good days. The name cleverly carried her origins into public view in a form most audiences would never recognize. Holliday's father worked in Zionist organizations, and she grew up in a politically active Jewish household in New York. Hollywood marketed her as the lovable blonde who played foolish women, especially after Born Yesterday, even though she was highly intelligent and musically gifted. That false simplicity helped her during a dangerous moment. Called before a Senate subcommittee investigating alleged communist influence, she performed uncertainty and answered cautiously, protecting herself in a culture ready to destroy careers. Her Jewish identity and dumb blonde mask revealed the same survival skill. Holliday understood how appearance could shield reality. She never needed to announce a dramatic conversion or secret ceremony. The surprise was already inside the name on every theater marquee. Audiences laughed at Judy Holliday while Judith Tuvim, smart, watchful, and culturally Jewish, controlled exactly how much of herself Hollywood was allowed to see. Number 4. Lauren Bacall. Howard Hawks did not discover a woman named Lauren Bacall. He discovered Betty Persky, a young Jewish model from New York, and helped manufacture a new screen identity. Bacall feared Hawks might react badly if he focused on her religion. Her name was reshaped from her mother's family name, Bacall, while Lauren was presented as elegant Hollywood invention. The transformation worked. To audiences, she appeared fully formed in To Have and Have Not, low voice, steady gaze, and effortless confidence. Behind the performance was a teenager managing anxiety about anti-Semitism in an industry filled with Jewish founders, but nervous about visibly Jewish stars. Bacall later described herself as totally Jewish, even though she was not highly observant. She also made sure her children understood their Jewish heritage. That certainty contrasts with her debut fears. Hollywood wanted an American mystery woman, not Betty Persky from a Jewish family. Bacall gave the studio what it wanted without surrendering the identity underneath. Her career therefore becomes more than a story about glamour. It shows the strange bargain many performers made. Change the name, soften the background, become universally desirable, and then spend a lifetime deciding when it was safe to tell the audience who had been there from the beginning. Number 3. Mary Pickford. The silent screen's most famous innocent was born Gladys Smith and raised around Christian traditions, including Methodist baptism, but grief eventually pushed her toward a different path. After the death of her mother, Mary Pickford found comfort in Christian Science and became a devoted supporter. This was not a passing Hollywood fashion. In the 1930s, she published religious booklets including Why Not Try God and My Rendezvous with Life, openly promoting ideas that had helped her. The contrast with her public image is striking. Pickford was sold as the eternal child with curls, sweetness, and moral purity, while the real woman was a hard negotiator, producer, studio founder, and one of the most powerful business figures in film. Christian Science offered a language of spiritual strength that matched her belief in self-discipline and perseverance. It also connected her to a surprisingly large network of Hollywood followers, including performers who rarely discussed the faith on screen. Pickford's religion was not completely hidden, but modern audiences often forget it because her business achievements and silent classics dominate the story. The woman called America's sweetheart was not simply protected by innocence. She survived poverty, family responsibility, industry warfare, divorce, and bereavement, while building a private structure of belief strong enough that she chose to write about it for the public. Number 2. Marilyn Monroe. The most famous blonde in movie history formally converted to Judaism in 1956. Marilyn Monroe studied with Rabbi Robert Goldberg before marrying playwright Arthur Miller, and her signed conversion certificate records that she accepted the Jewish faith on July 1st. The easy explanation is that she did it only for her husband. The fuller story is more interesting. Miller reportedly did not force the decision, and Monroe was drawn to the idea of Jewish family life, intellectual tradition, and belonging. For a woman who had grown up without a stable home, that sense of rootedness carried emotional weight. She kept religious objects and remained connected to Judaism even after the marriage failed. Yet Hollywood usually treated the conversion as another romantic accessory, like a wedding dress or headline. Her public image was too powerful. Marilyn had to remain a universal fantasy without complicated theology. The conversion also challenged the assumption that her beauty meant shallowness. She read widely, sought serious conversation, studied acting, and searched repeatedly for systems that could explain suffering and identity. Judaism did not rescue her from loneliness, and it should not be turned into a sentimental cure. But it was a documented, chosen part of her life. Behind the breathy voice and white dress stood Norma Jean, still trying to build a home inside herself. Number 1. Elizabeth Taylor. No old Hollywood religious transformation was more public, lasting, and politically consequential than Elizabeth Taylor's conversion to Judaism. Raised in Christian Science, she formally converted in 1959 and took the Hebrew name Elisheba Rachel. Two of her husbands were Jewish, but Taylor rejected the idea that romance alone explained her decision. She said the faith offered dignity, hope, and a sense of ancient survival, and she described feeling Jewish long before the ceremony. Unlike stars who treated conversion as temporary social convenience, Taylor remained openly committed to major Jewish causes. She supported Israel, purchased Israeli bonds, and faced bans or restrictions in parts of the Arab world because of that support. Her faith therefore carried real professional and political consequences. It also complicated the public caricature of Taylor as diamonds, marriages, and scandal. The woman behind Cleopatra possessed fierce loyalty and was willing to attach her name to causes when silence would have been easier. Even later stories about studying the Bible with friends do not cancel her Jewish identity. Jewish engagement with Scripture and interfaith conversation can coexist. Hollywood loved turning Taylor's life into a chain of husbands, illnesses, and jewels. Her conversion reveals something steadier. Once she chose a religious identity, she defended it for the rest of her life. The greatest hidden truth was not the ceremony. It was the permanence. Hollywood could change a woman's name, hair, accent, and public story, but belief was harder to rewrite. Some of these actresses stayed devoted, some converted, and some rejected religion completely. Their choices were shaped by love, grief, prejudice, survival, and the need to belong. Which story surprised you most? Share it in the comments. Subscribe for more classic Hollywood history, and remember, the brightest screen image often hides the most complicated private life.